So welcome back to Stu Structures. I am Mark Stewart, and we are here to continue our build on with this building of Sparky's house. So stay tuned. So welcome back. Like I said, I'm glad you're coming back and sharing this time with me. I do appreciate it. So we are continuing on with this house. We still have, a fair amount of work to do on this house, and I'm about ready to start the shingles. There's still more trim work to do. The small building attachment on the back, we've still got to get a roof on that. The shingles take a while, but we also have the deck on the back and the deck to put under the porch on the front side of the house. There's just a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to jump into this and we'll see how far we can get this week. Let's go with it. Well, here's kind of how we were leaving the building a couple months ago when I quit being able to get videos up. I was just, the last thing I did in the last video was put these ridge supports up for these roofs over across the dormers on the front of the building. And, it's just, there's so much to do at this point. We've got all the roofs to take care of, we've got gutters to do, we've got trim to do, we've got a porch, we've got a deck on the back, another little roof on the back that we haven't dealt with yet. So there's just, a ton of stuff to do on this house. And as you can see here, there's just tons of cut up areas with shingles, the gutters we've got to get on, then the downspouts after that, some door handles on the garage, all this picket fence type area around the porch area on the front. So, we're just going to jump into the front of this. Now, on those dormers, I want to go ahead and get roof panels on those dormers. So I'm just taking some wood here, and I'm cutting some pieces to add in here as extra supports where the panels will glue down to the roof. I had a little bit of sagging in the cardboard on the other part of the roof, so I want to minimize that. And before I go ahead and put these on, I'm going to go ahead and get this gutter on this short section of wall over here, because this is just going to be a tight area to get down and work in later on. So then I just go ahead and cut the roof panels. It's just 4 panels and just getting them cut to size. Now I did go ahead and glue them on here before I drew the roof lines on them. I just, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I'm in a hurry to catch up with not having done things in a while. And anyway, so I have to come back and draw all these lines on here for the shingles to come on later on, and get all that set into place. And then we have those roof panels on. So then I've got to come back and start doing these, wood framing underneath the eaves and get all that worked out, and, get the other side piece on here. Now I am going to go ahead and take some green stuff and kind of do some fill in some areas under here as well. But then I'm going to go ahead, before I start the roofing on the front of the house, and go ahead and get all the gutters on the front of the house, because the roofing overlaps these and it's just easier to put them on in advance. So I just, put the plastic up to the building and mark the lengths and cut 3 pieces for every gutter. And I use the edge of my rule here to stand one piece up, put one piece to it, glue it, turn it around, and put the other side of it, and then we have a U-channel. And I do that for all 3 of the gutters on the front. And then I take the same size piece and just cut these little end tabs, and I come back and glue those down into the ends of all these to enclose the ends. Now I just rough cut all these, so once these are all glued into place, I come back with a knife and just trim everything on the ends so that all the pieces are nice and even on the ends of the gutter systems. And then I come back with my tester's glue and just glue these gutters, at the bottom of the roof lines in place where they need to be. And that's the gutters on the front side of the building. There's still some trim I haven't done on the front, so before I start the roofing, I'm going to go ahead and add this trim onto the front of the building as well. So I've got these 1x6s that I pre-painted white, and I'm coming back under this roof for the front porch and just shaving off some of those ribs that are on the siding and then gluing this trim back in there. gluing the trim onto the sides of the roof porch and the front of the porch and that as well. And then, once that's there, I'm coming back with a little bit of vinyl spackling and adding some stuff, to fill little cracks and joints and stuff. On this long side wall of the house, I'm going to go ahead and do a trim piece on here as well and get it up under there. And the cardboard for the roof is a little uneven, but at this point the shingles are going to overlap that just a little bit, so I'm not worried about having a perfect edge down there right now. Now the other 4 gutters we need to do on the front of the house are where those dormers stick out. I did that one short piece on the side wall of the house, but now I've got these 4 pieces that I need to make and go ahead and get glued onto the dormers as well. So then I can come back and start all the shingle work, and we're ready to start doing the roofing at this point. Now, in one of my earlier videos for this build, I showed how I picked a specific paper for the color that I wanted for these shingles, and I showed you how I make all these shingles. These are roughly anywhere from 1 inch to 1.5 inches or so long, with all the shingles pre-cut into them, and I use those lines as a guide to put them on. Now before I start laying these though, where they meet up in these recessed corners, I need to put this gutter piece down through all these joints to make sure that when the paper lines up in the corners, you're not seeing cardboard down through them, and that's the way they would do a real roof. So I put all those on there and then start working my way up the roofs with all the shingles. I'm starting here with the front porch. I start with the odd garage end at the far end, but I just start working my way up all these panels with shingles until I get up to the very top of those roof lines. And then, I can do a trim piece on top of those, but here's that far end garage addition that's on the end of the house. And I start up those just the same as all the other roofs. And I just start out with one end flush and let the other end run wild, and then I come back and cut off the overhanging shingles all in an even row. And I just do this, on all these front surfaces, and I just keep working my way further and further up the building. Now when I get to this point here, there's a couple of other flashing pieces that I need to add in. Along either side of the dormer, where the roofing meets the dormers, I need to do a piece of flashing. So I'm just taking a piece of that roughing and with an upside down knife scoring the paper so it folds a 90 degree, and then I'm going to glue those inside this dormer edge on both sides of both the dormers and get all that in there. And also up that side wall of the side building as well, and then I continue on with just laying all the shingles. And the ones in between the dormers are a little tough, but this tight area with the gutters on in between the building and that are really hard to do. Now there's some other gutters while I'm working on finishing this roofing coming up the building. There's also some other gutters that need to be done. This long side wall that I put this trim piece on, I cut one to length and I go ahead and glue this side gutter on because I want to start working the shingles on this wall as well. And once this is glued on there, that gives me everything to start working my shingles up the roof. So that's another one. While I'm working on all these shingles, I can start working this up that side roof as well. And you can see here I'm just continuing on up and up as we go. This is just a very, very, very slow process. Now you can see there was a little bit of variation in the collar. Even though the paper when I cut these shingles looked all the same, there's some variation in the collars. There's a couple of these pieces that turned out really, really lightweight. So, I've got to come back, and I've got some gray alcohol markers that I'm going to tint those just a little bit so they don't stand out like the one on the far right does in this picture here. But, just continuing on with doing the shingles up all those roofs. And I'm just going to bring them up just to where there's one row that needs to go across the peaks. And we'll deal with all the peaks once I get all of the buildings completed. But, just continuing on with that. Now the next thing I want to do is get a start on this front porch. Now the boards look in the pictures like they run at a 45-degree angle to the porch. So I just take these boards and I put them back in the building and build, because it's not perfectly square and I want these to fit tight. So I put the building on top of the sheet and draw the lines how the walls actually are, and I cut the pieces and scribe all the lines in the tops of the decks. Then I come back, and all these ribs down below on the siding, I'm going to cut all those ribs off as well. And then I just come back and, I measured the height. So the top of the decking board, I need to meet up right underneath the door. So I figured out the heights for everything and come back and put all this bracing underneath of them, and then come back and glue those into place and put a basic layer of paint. Now, with all that going on in the front, while glue is setting up, I'm going to come back to the back side of this structure and start working on this whole back side. And, we left some of this, just needing a lot of catch-up work to be done on this. So we're going to go ahead and get all that accomplished and, make sure all that's underway the way it should be. So, we've got a little small roof here that we need to work on. We've got all these gutters. We haven't done any of the shingle work. There's still some trim work to do back here. But the first little odd thing that really needs to be caught up is the rest of this roof being put on this small building that attaches to the back of the house. So, I measure the wood to come across and finish out that corner, and I had to re-glue some of the other wood a little bit because it was just bumping around. It just wasn't right. Then I figure out the roof line where it meets the rest of the house that's perpendicular to all these other lines, and draw those lines on the house as well. And then I go ahead and cut a roof panel for that. Now, the roof lines that I drew on the house, I just go ahead and glue some square stock to that to support the roof, and I did do a couple of support beams down the middle of the roof to stop the sagging as well. And then once I draw the lines on the roof, I go ahead and glue that into place. Now, the gutters need to go on the back, and I didn't show the process of doing any of the trim on some of these behind the gutter lines, but I did put white trim on those. I made all these gutters the same as I did all the others. You can see the U channels here, and I'm getting ready to put the square ends in them. And then I just come back and trim all those edges. And to connect the plastic to the wood, I just like using this old tester cement. It seems to give me the best adherent quality to attach plastic to wood. And then I come back, and then all four of those gutters I glue into place on the back side of the building, and all my gutters are finished at this point, and we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so there you finally have another episode of the building of Sparky's house. It's coming along really good now. It may be another episode, well, at least one, but probably close to 2 episodes will finish this house out. It's been a long time since I put up a video. I do apologize for that. I've just had tons of stuff in my personal life. My computer went down and wouldn't allow me to go online to download any of this, so I'm kind of coming back and redoing some videos to try to get them uploaded and posted online for you guys so that you have some new material out there to watch. I know some of you have been anxious to see the end of Sparky's house, especially Sparky probably. But in any case, this is coming along really well. Things aren't slowing down for me this winter like they normally do in the winter, so I'm going to get as much of this done as fast as I can and get it out there. But I do appreciate you coming back and sharing this time with me. I've picked up a lot of subscribers over the last few months while I have not even been able to get anything online. To all you new subscribers, welcome to my channel, and thank you for subscribing. Hopefully some of this material will teach you some things. If anything else, like I've said many times before, maybe how not to do things. I watch videos of various people, and a lot of times I don't do the things that they suggest or do it the way they're doing it. I kind of make my own method of going about things and finding things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the more you do things like this, the more and more things that will happen right for you, and you'll end up with better quality buildings as you go on. And if you're wanting buildings that don't exist out there in kit form, you have no choice but to scratch build. And you know, it's not that hard. It's time consuming, and you got to figure out what materials. You know, there's just a long process to go to scratch build a building, unless you're just doing a simple outhouse or something, which, you know, if you're just getting started in scratch building, I recommend doing small buildings like that to get started and learning. I mean, I make tons of mistakes still doing all this. I've been doing this for years, and you know, I don't strive for the highest quality in everything that I do. You know, I don't want to take all the emphasis off the trains and the running of trains by having something so pristine and something so awesome that people get lost in the scenery and never pay attention to the trains. To me, model railroading is about model railroading. I like to put something out there that is a really nice quality material, not necessarily museum quality, but a really nice object that looks enough like the original that when people walk in and look at it, they'll say, wow, that's Sparky's house, you know, or whatever building that I'm working on that'll go in my layout. And that's really what I strive for. I mean, I try not to turn out things that are like totally crap. Maybe some of you look at this and are at a higher quality and a higher level of modeling than I am, and you have to say, man, that's crap. But you know, it serves my purpose and what I want to do. When you're building a model layout, it's yours. You know, you can do what you want to do. Now, I am building this building for somebody else, and I'm trying to turn out a fairly decent quality structure here. But it could have been a little higher. This has been a kind of a complicated build, and I'm making some mistakes as I go, but you know, correcting some things as I go. Just some things pop up that are unforeseen when you're building structures, and you just got to deal with it. So in any case, I'm rambling on here. I just want to thank all of you once more for coming back and sharing my videos. I'll try to start getting these out on a weekly basis like I had been in the past before all this stuff nailed me. And you know, it's all about enjoying the hobby. Happy model railroading.